Hey everyone, Sparrow here. True North Sanctuary is back after a short break and we are taking on the final zone. Well, kind of. Today's build is a cafe and gift shop that will lead guests into the last section of the zoo and hopefully create a nice gateway into it. After this, there will only be 4 more animals added to True North. I can't believe it's this close to being complete. Drop me your guesses as to which animals we'll be including in this final zone in the comments. And potentially any birds you'd like to see in True North as well. I've really been loving building aviaries and think we could definitely include at least 1 more. But anyway, enough of that, let me explain what exactly it is we're building here. The inspiration for this building was an A-frame cabin, a mixture of modern and rustic elements. Obviously the centerpiece of the building is this triangle shape in the front, and at first I tried using regular roof pieces to make it happen, but the 4-meter slope is at a 45-degree angle and I felt it wasn't steep enough for how I'd imagined this facade. So I ended up using the stained wood panels at a 60-degree angle instead and making my life difficult in terms of roofing, but we'll explore that in a little bit. First, the walls. There will be plenty of the stained wood, but also glass to add light to the interior, and the metal girders painted black to give the building that more modern vibe. I did only include windows on the front of the building. The entire backside is stained wood, but I do have a plan for dressing up the otherwise plain back walls, so make sure you stick around for the tour to see that come to life. As with the reindeer building, the corners are reinforced with these metal beams as well, and I think it gives it a nice, heavier touch. Because I wasn't using one of the preset angles for the A-frame, I also had to figure out a way of covering up these triangular gaps. The conservation slats absolutely saved the day, just required a bit of fiddling around to make sure they covered up the hole. Was also able to recolor them so they were pretty close to the stained wood wall, so that worked out nicely. Thankfully, these triangular glass panels were the correct size to fit into my custom A-frame, and I definitely made good use of them. Sliding them in next to each other was also so satisfying for some reason. They fit together so well, and the black frame is quite similar to the metal girders around the windows, which is great because we love continuity in design. It really helps bring everything together. This rectangular piece is where the doors will go. Since I used a big glass panel, they unfortunately won't be able to open and close, but since Planet Zoo guests don't care about that and can walk through solid walls, I think it'll be okay. Fit in as many of the triangular panels around the edges as I could, and I do love the way it turned out because it vaguely resembles an evergreen in an abstract way, and that works amazingly for the name of the cafe. So, why Boreal Cafe? In Alberta, there are 6 natural regions: Rocky Mountains, foothills, grassland, parkland, Canadian Shield, and Boreal Forest. The location of this fictional zoo would be somewhere within the Boreal Forest region, which is also the largest natural region in Alberta, spanning 465,000 square kilometers, or 115 million acres, which is larger than the entire country of Sweden. But that's only 8% of the Boreal region within Canada. The Boreal Forest stretches from Newfoundland and Labrador on the Atlantic coast all the way to the Yukon and is the largest intact forest ecosystem left on our planet. This region is also incredibly important to wildlife, but birds specifically. It is wetland rich, supporting more than 3 million waterfowl each year, and it's also the breeding ground for more than 200 species of birds. It is also the home of the great horned owl, Alberta's provincial bird, and the lodgepole pine, Alberta's provincial tree. So as you can probably tell, the Boreal Forest is important not only to Alberta, but to natural systems overall, and that is why this building bears its name. There's that abstract tree on the front. Most of the Boreal Forest is made up of evergreens, and I wish I could say that this was planned, but definitely a happy accident. Also cool that the triangles work with the signage I've created for the zoo. The animals on the zone banners have this geometric pattern as well. Also completely unintentional, but a fun accidental callback. One thing that was planned, and please don't ask how many times I trialed this before it finally worked the way I wanted it to, was this angled overhang. Some of the inspiration pictures I used had this feature, and I loved it enough to spend a long time figuring out how to make it work because it just looked so much more interesting than a flat front. An incredible hassle, not sure I recommend, but the final product is definitely worth it. especially with some lights sunk into the underside to light up the glass. Seriously can't wait for you to see the results. Just needed to get the angle of the metal beams correct here to get the roof pieces in place, but once those front-facing pieces were in, the rest were an easy duplication. Well, almost. I also wanted to be careful that they weren't sticking into the cafe, so I added a temporary ceiling at one point to make sure the length was correct. I did end up using this piece for the final ceiling as well. I liked the texture because it meant I didn't have to do as much with the ceiling to make it look interesting, which is always a struggle for me. Bare walls or ceilings just don't look good or realistic, but adding all of those details takes forever, which didn't stop me because I still took forever adding details, and that's part of the reason why there was no TNS episode last week. But sometimes using pre-made details or workshop items saves a bunch of time. Why reinvent the wheel, you know? I say that, yet here I am building a custom roof. But like I said, once the angled front portions were in, it was quick and easy to slide it over to the other side and then fill in the center gap. Also somehow got lucky and the pieces fit together perfectly, which they should because they're 2-meter panels, but with non-grid pieces, sometimes you slide them just a little too close together or too far from each other and it misaligns it by the smallest amount, and that completely throws everything off. I hate it when that happens. But somehow not this time, which was a good thing. I did have a little bit of wood peeking through because of the rotation of the end pieces, but an overlapping metal girder worked perfectly for covering that up, and you can hardly tell it's there. The sides of the building got a similar treatment, same doors as the front, but there's obviously less glass above, and I also got rid of the screens, which is where you'll eventually see a banner with the building's name on it. More conservation slats going in to cover up the holes on the sides. I tried playing around with adding glass here instead, but it just wasn't working. Wrong angles and too much overlap. The roof I once more thought about making custom, but decided screw that and used some of the metal-clad roof pieces, which have been used before on various other buildings in True North Sanctuary. The only custom bit is this top part because of the angle of the A-frame entrance. That portion luckily won't be seen from the inside, which will feature a 2-tiered ceiling, so I wasn't worried about pieces sticking out. Added some more metal beams for details around the windows. This will also provide a pseudo windowsill that is not just the unfinished edge of the wood. And then it's onto the interior of the cafe. Because I've placed a restaurant in here, if we want it to be functional, it has to have restaurant seating. I love booth seating. It is always what I gravitate towards at restaurants in real life. And I thought it would make the interior super cozy, but still modern looking with these dark metal tones, green upholstery, and a lighter tabletop. The flooring I'm stealing from the entrance building. These are the plastic opaque panels, and they make an excellent floor in my opinion. Once the flooring for the entire building is in, it's time to bring the roof back and fill in this slight gap between the two parts of the roof. Running into issues again because of the angle, but there are already so many metal girders on the roof, what's a few more? This build really challenged my spatial perception and ability to rotate items on more than one axis at the same time. Like here is actually a perfect example of that. The first time I try rotating this, I go around the horizontal world axis, so the x-axis I guess, and the edges obviously don't line up, and I would still have to move each individual piece into place because there's no option to reflect in planetzooo. But what you can do instead is rotate around the vertical world axis, and then with a few tweaks, the piece fit right where I needed it to. This does only work if the item is not 2D because it's a 3D object, but built only on one plane, if that makes sense. Like if it's a collection of objects where the front looks good and the back has a bunch of random items sticking out of it, this won't work. But for items that look the same front and back that just needed to be flipped, this is a great workaround for the lack of a reflection tool. And with this newfound rotational wisdom, getting the rest of the roof into place was a breeze. Things I hate building in Planet Zoo, Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Plazas really shouldn't be this hard to build. I find using smaller path pieces gives you better control though, even if it takes longer to place everything down. Even then, I had gaps between the paths, which kind of forced me to put down planters later, which I was going to do anyway, but it would be nice to have more freedom about where I choose to put them, you know? Rather than having to mask the ugly edges of the path. Maybe what we need is a path brush, where we can just freehand the path systems. Yes? No? Would that make it easier or harder? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. We can finally move on to the interior of the gift shop. I do have a few specific items that I created myself that I wanted to show off, but for the most part the gift shop made very good use of workshop items. I've made sure to add them to my collection on Steam, and there's a handy link to that in the description below if you'd like to check them out. These counters and the panels on the back wall are from Shift-C, as are many other items in the gift shop. For now, assume everything you're seeing is a Shift-C blueprint, unless I say otherwise. To spice up this ceiling and add some realistic support, these Arctic beams worked so well for creating a log cabin style support. That's probably not what they're actually called, but that's what they always remind me of. It also mirrored the shape of the triangular windows super well. The first more custom item I built for the gift shop is this display case. I did use one of Shift-C's displays as a starting piece, but made it quite a bit longer and deeper to take up more space against the side wall. Then I popped down some of Jurassic's geodes, and these are only the ones I blueprinted specifically for this build. The full pack is massive, and I was worried it would crash the game if I placed it in True North, so I just grabbed the ones I wanted in a separate file. Placed a glass shelf with some fence posts to imply brackets holding it up, and placed some more gems on top. These absolutely blew my mind the first time I saw them. They're made entirely of drapery knots. I used the same trick to create the fake gemstones on the wolf education signs. If you haven't seen that video, make sure to check it out. It's probably still one of my favorite habitats I've created for True North. The side and top of the case were just more of the same glass, but for the front I used a larger pane of glass, which still didn't cover the whole opening, so I decided to create the illusion of a sliding door. These kinds of display cases can often be opened by staff, so we would also need a tiny handle and also a locking mechanism to make sure customers don't steal anything. For that, we just have a bracket piece and then a hinge going through it. Another piece that I'm pretty proud of is super simple, but it's this little magnet wall. The vents make up the magnetic backboard, and for the magnets I used the LED tube cap, which is an incredibly useful and versatile small piece. Once I had a group, I copied it over a few times before going back to add a few magnets here, take a few away there, make it look like people have been buying them. Can't have everything in neat rows, right? And then recolored to the TNS colors. Quick shout out to Keyboard Keeper for these amazing plushies. They are seriously so good, and I would never have the patience to make them on my own. So, workshop items. Use them. They're there for a reason. The mugs I shamelessly stole from Haribo's gift shop from Valby City Zoo, along with a few other items. They look right at home on this shelf. These condiments are from a restaurant counter by Just Gorin, but I also decided to include these tiny salt and pepper shakers. Super easy to make, just an LED sign wall clamp and a few hinges, and we have ourselves a basic set. To add even more coziness to the restaurant side, I also created some stools for use against the long counter on the far side of the kitchen. I thought the Australian circular sign looked a bit like a tree, or like tree rings, which fits the theme of the cafe, added some stained timber beams for the legs, and a few hinges in between for the footrest. Recolored the metal dark like everywhere else, and thought I'd make the wood light at first, but then ended up attempting to match it to the Arctic beams instead. Had to adjust a little bit once it was flipped over, but overall very happy with the way these turned out. more details like these leaves on the roof of the gift shop, I did something similar in the indoor viewing area for the foxes. This is actually the bottom of the tropical leaf litter. I like the look of it better. And just when I thought it was done, I remembered those gaps in the pathhouse side and the fact that I had to cover them up with planters. So to edge the planters, I created this assortment of small rocks in various rotations, outlined my garden beds with those, added a bunch of mulch, and then planted them up. Also some more seating for the restaurant, and because the plaza was looking a little too empty. Perfect, so here we are looking at the brand new Boreal Cafe and gift shop with its wonderful new signage. Over here on the side we have the sign we made during the 1000 subscriber special. Might change it because I ended up going with green for a lot of the custom signs for this one, but I'll try to point those out as we head over. So right away we have the front sign here, Boreal Cafe and gift shop, and then on the sides we have individual signs for the Boreal Cafe and the Boreal gift shop. So this one has a little present on it. This one has a little tree. And out here we do have our patio seating so that guests can enjoy their food. And they also have quite a nice view of the bison and pronghorn habitat in the background there too. All right, let's head in through the front doors. So immediately we are greeted by some souvenir shops and an info desk. I used the Hat's Fantastic and Just a Memento in here because I refuse to use loony balloons. Balloons are so bad for the environment. I am not sure why that gift shop is even in this game. But let's head into the Boreal gift shop. So we have our tree feature up here. And we have a bunch of custom signs in here as well, so I'll see if I can point all of them out. So right away we have 40% off stationery. That's another Shift C blueprint. Pretty much everything is. This one isn't actually. Well, part of it is. The Mountain and the Meadow books are actually from Volby City Zoo by Haribo. Some more papers. We have a little drink stand. We have one of our big display cases over there, and then we do also have more props in here, and they are buy one get one free. We also have some pens for sale in various colors, and we have a little scribble sheet here so people can test out all of the different colors available. Looks like people have been writing some notes on there. We have our lovely stuffed animal table with an Adopt Me sign. So 25% of proceeds from plush animal sales go directly back to helping take care of the animals at the sanctuary. Some more signage here. Some plants as you walk in. Here's a closer view of that display case. Some little brackets with a comma font piece down there to make it look like the geodes are titled. And then all of these things along this wall are from Shift C, and I just spent a long time recoloring almost everything, just not these ones here, to the TNS colors. But the graphics are also mine, so buy one get one free, and 25% off all water bottles. So yeah. Back there is the door to get into the staff space behind the counter. But we are gonna head over to the Boreal Cafe after taking a look at these gorgeous support beams. So the Boreal Cafe. As soon as you walk in, you have a self-service counter. Welcome to the Boreal Cafe, with a menu up here of all the different things that they offer. We have your custom condiments. Well, the condiments are from Just Gorin. The salt and pepper shaker are by me. And over here we have a cozy booth with our name on it. Wish I could sit down in here and enjoy some good food. We also have some hooks along the divider here for hanging up coats and purses and such. And then you get a nice view into the cafe, which I also customized. I covered up a lot of that back wall. Our drink special is Labrador Tea Fog. Bring notes of cedar and spice to floral flavor with this Taiga favorite. And we do have some more tree decoration on the walls, just to give that boreal feeling. And these conservation lamps I thought looked really good in here. And then of course we have our stools right here for some extra seating. And we have our entrance into the restaurant. So I didn't do anything with that, just plopped it down. Alright, let's head out. We are going to check out the back of the building, which I didn't really show as part of the build because it is mostly just a blank wall. But to spice it up, I did add some banners featuring the animals we have at True North. So we have our butterflies, our moose, an empty one for one of the upcoming animals, so do put your guesses in the comments what we might be adding there. We have our skunk and our reindeer. And then as we go around the other side of the A frame, we also have our doll sheep, grizzly bear, and the bison, plus another empty spot. I had a lot of fun taking these photos and just watching how the animals interact with their surroundings and the enrichment in their habitats. I don't do that super often, and I think I should do it more often because it is a lot of fun just to watch the animals. So there are those pot lights hidden in the overhang just to give the glass a little bit more light. I imagine around the holidays maybe they're fun Christmas colors just to liven things up. And of course the entire inside is lit as well, so we can see through the windows our lovely gift shop, and we can also see our lovely cafe with its mood lighting. Like so. This turned out gorgeous in my opinion. Probably one of my best builds so far. A lot of work went into this one, but I am so happy with how it turned out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed the build, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see the continuation. I'm also now on Twitter, or X. Follow me for more frequent updates and behind the scenes looks at how some of these builds come together. Next week we're headed into the Arctic zone. See you next time. Bye.